Happy Monday, everyone. I've got some sad news to report. I've lost a friend of the last 40 years, Windows control panel. I don't know whether you're shedding tears about it or not, but we'll discuss it. Can AI be your next mayor? Can AI save tech sports viewership? What else can we talk about with AI? You'll find out because you're watching Techstrong Gang. Hi, everyone. It's Alan Schimmel here for Techstrong Gang. Thanks for joining us on this lovely Monday. It's an exciting day. We've got a good mix of stuff as usual. There's a lot of AI and a little bit of other stuff, but that's the way the tech world is today. We hope your day's going great. Let me introduce you to our gang members for today. We've got just a smaller group today, and sometimes that's a good thing. First of all, joining us from Silicon Valley, where he has his finger on the pulse of big tech, little tech, and all tech in between, it's our roving editor extraordinaire, John Swartz. John, welcome.
Yeah. Hi, it's great to be back again.
Good to have you, John. Joining us, I guess, looks like she's in New Mexico, unless it's a fake background of her home that she's been using over and over. She is the CEO, founder of Deploy Hub, board member extraordinaire on several different projects and foundations, and a regular member here of the gang, our friend Tracy Ragan. Hey, Tracy, how are you?
Hey, Alan, I'm doing great today. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so is that a real background or?
It is. That is my real office.
Excellent. It's good to have you, Tracy.
You might see a dog wander through the hallway there.
She's AI, but the background.
Right, the background's real. She's not. Hey, anything's possible. Joining us here in our Boca Raton studio headquarters is our Chief Content Officer. He'll be leaving later this week for VM World, right?
That is true. As we speak,
You're in two places at one time. So are you the AI is the question.
I'm actually a quantum computer.
You're a quantum computer. But your states are mixed. All right. It's Mike Rizzard, our Chief Content Officer. Welcome, Mike. So what do we have on for today?
All right, well, let's get started. As Alan mentioned, Microsoft's trying to kill that Windows control plane one more time. And this time they're serious about it. And the expectation is that maybe AI is going to help us find our files, but I, for one, kind of have been attached to that. And I know that other people are, because every time Microsoft tries to kill this thing, they have to bring it back. But John, you covered this for Techstrong ITSM. What's your take? Is this a Bullwinkle moment this time for sure?
Wow, Bullwinkle. Yes, it's just, this seems to have been more than a decade in the making, or the undoing, right? We heard about this. I think there have been speculations since 2011 and 2015 about its inevitable death. I think we can put it on the tombstone now, because Microsoft put out a statement saying that Control Panel is going to be replaced by settings in the foreseeable future. They did not say when, but they specifically said this would apply to Windows 11 and 10. I know the two have coexisted for years, which in some cases led to confusion when they were side by side for consumers. So I reached out to a couple of analysts and asked them, why is it happening finally now? And one of them, Jack Gold, who's been around probably as long as I have covering this stuff, said that he thinks Microsoft needed to simplify, and that there are so many controls in Microsoft Windows that some people got frustrated. I don't know about you, but my two questions, I'll throw it out, is why did they stick so long with Control Panel when they said or hinted they wanted to get rid of it, and why do it now? Why kill it now?
I think those are good questions. Let me just weigh in first of all. And I was an exclusive Windows user. Hi, my name is Alan, and I was a Windows user from about 1980 something. 86, 85.
I saw 85, but around that time frame, yeah.
Yeah, Windows 3.0, 3.1. I think I started with 3.0, which was really ugly. 3.1 was a big ship move up. And then the last 8-9 years, I pretty much use a Mac. But being the best IT guy in my family, including my extended family and my wife's extended family, I get exposed to a lot of different operating systems, and most of them do use Windows. And I've seen this sort of deprecation of Windows Control Panel over the years. I used to love going to that app because you could get to everything right there. It was really easy. If I needed to do the printer or the Wi-Fi networking or something else, back in the days when you had to go look and look at my, did I have an IRQ conflict or something like that? You could see that they were moving the settings. And then in the latest versions of Windows, when I'd log on to troubleshoot stuff for people, I couldn't even really find settings. They didn't make it easy. They didn't make it easy to find Control Panel. And there wasn't that nice little GUI where I could click on a printer, or I could click on the world network thing, or, what have you. I actually had to type in the box, Wi-Fi settings or something like that. And it bummed me out, because I felt like I lost a friend. But on the other hand, I have to tell you the truth. In the world of AI, that should be the way we do it, right? Rather than hunting through my device settings, which was something in Control Panel. That was my favorite place where I could do magic tricks, And it's a lot easier to just type in the search, bring up device settings, or, something like that. So, no, I'll miss it. I think when it gets over the bridge, Clippy will be waiting there for it, and they'll have a reunion, and it'll all be good.
Here's the part that I don't understand. And yes, I am sitting on my lawn and telling you to get off my lawn. But
okay.
Why can't everybody just have what they want? I mean, there's no need.
Mind your own damn business.
Yeah, why do they feel the need to force me down one path or the other? I'm sure that there are younger folks out there than me that probably want a Windows that feels more like Mac. Okay, God bless. There are those of us who kind of like the old Windows 10 on the structure. It's what we know, it's what we've been using. Why mess with it? It's like there's no value add. And yes, maybe I can use AI and I can go search for things verbally. I'll use that if you make it available, but why are you forcing me down one path or the other?
So just, I want to stick up for Mac here a second, because you gave us that left-handed. Mac does have a Control Panel. It works pretty good, right? You go in your Mac, you hit settings, and it brings up the equivalent of a Windows Control Panel that you can click in through all the general. It's much like the Control Panel or settings in your iPhone or iPad. They have a GUI for it.
All right. Maybe we should just standardize the OS.
I think we all have to get ready for interfaces that are not icon driven, right? Everything we have seen in the past, everything we do has to have an icon. And that's sort of our mind model that we have now. And it's hard to get out of that. But in order to start progressing, tools like Control Panel, I think that's the best place to start in teaching us a new way. And that's why it has to go, because otherwise we're going to be held back by icons forever. And the icon model isn't. Yeah, we got to go forward. We're not going to go back. We got to go forward. And the icon model is an old model, and we do have to move off of it. And we have to start learning it.
Now, you know what? When you put it that way, Tracy, you got my vote. I agree. I think the whole. I think even the Chat GPT typing into a prompt is archaic. I think I'm ready for the what I call the Scotty era of computing. Hello, computer. And
I'm ready for that too.
Right, just tell the computer what you want, and it does it and brings it up for you.
You're gonna get the one that understands New York accents. How's that gonna work?
You're making fun of my New York accent. Yeah, you know what? It takes a little extra training. But seriously,
I'm all for freedom of choice, and I agree with Mike on that. What's so remarkable is that this lasted as long as it did. You look at most companies and most technologies like Facebook, latter day technology, they just would break things on the fly and change rules and change things for you all the time.
Yeah.
Even Apple would do that with the iPhone, in terms of the headphones. It was something that people are accustomed to, and it's just, to me, that this is the most interesting thing about this, is that why they stuck with this so long. Maybe because it was popular, it was easy to use. So why
don't fix what's not broke?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's just see that what happened between the Yahoo interface and then Google, right? Yahoo used to have columns of areas that you could do searches on and look for and stuff coming up. And then Google came out with, ta-da, an empty box, which we could say anything we wanted. We could ask anything we wanted. And I feel like that has always been a better way to go, because our minds, too much is too much, right? And it's hard to learn. So the more we get away from these I feel more constricted ways of seeing things, the better. So for example, when you do it, I used to change channels on my, television set. Now I push the button and say, Hulu, find me this. I don't go through and scroll around. I just ask. And that's where technology's going. But don't take away my command line. Do not take away my command line.
He and I were both our parents' remote control, right? They said,
Not only was I the remote control, I was also the antenna.
I used to be the remote control.
Touch the end of the antenna. Can you move this way a little? But again, Tracy, you're just full of common sense today. But you're right when you think about it. Now, I got to tell you the truth. I kind of grieved for the end of the Yahoo interface too, because, I mean, when I want to search for something specific, yes, it's nice to just have that search box. But I used to find myself, I go to the Yahoo and I would just peruse and see if something caught my eye. As a matter of fact, even to this day, I love it when I go to Chrome and I do a Google search. I'm going to tell you little confession, a little insight into my ADD. But half the time, I don't even wind up searching what I wanted to search for, because I see like the stories that are under the search bar of what's new or what's hot or whatever. And I'll read 3 or 4 different things before I say what. And then I don't remember what I was searching for anymore.
You're looking at it's enjoy discovery, right?
Yeah, I like that.
I will tell you where all this is going horribly wrong, though. So I took one of the machines at home and upgraded it to Windows 11 and did all that, opened up Windows 11, and all my files are gone. And I'm like, aren't you supposed to move the files over? And no, it turns out that they are hidden in some subdirectory somewhere. And then I'm supposed to go search for these files now by the last tag on it, whether it's a .doc or IMG photos or whatever it is. I'm kind of like, this is not helpful. So if Windows 11 would have the voice thing, at least I could say, where are my friggin' files? And then they would
it doesn't have no more Cortana?
And no, not hooked up to a thing that you can go explore and find your files with.
I thought you could ask Cortana for files.
I wonder if they're going to hook Copilot up to that then, right? Wouldn't that make sense?
Only if you pay extra for the AI PC.
Tracy, what you said, actually, the guy I talked to, the analyst, actually thought the same thing you did about Copilot. He was of the same mind.
Yeah.
I think that's the no-brainer, well, no pun intended. But that's the no-brainer there. And that's where you're headed. You'll have Copilot to do it for you.
So we talked conspiracy several times last week. Is this part of another conspiracy to get us to upgrade, to switch to new machines?
Well, if you need more horsepower for Copilot, yes, probably. But I think it goes, honestly, JC was dead on the first round around this. We got to think about a new way of human-machine interaction. My friend Brad Feld used to be big into this 15 years ago, and he told me this was going to happen. And I said, yeah, I'll be long dead and buried, but maybe I won't be. Maybe we are at the end of the mouse. Because think about it. So I use an iPad as a primary laptop these days with a Magic Keyboard. I don't have I use a mouse sometimes. And I'm like, it just feels foreign to me, unnatural, right? I could touch something if I need to. But I think moving human-machine interaction into a verbal interface is the future, and it's not a far future. I think it's in the next 2-3 year future. Right? Your Windows desktop or Mac desktop may be like Google, just one box, and tell it what you want, and then it brings it up. Your files will be there, not to worry.
So will there be a fundamental difference between any of the operating systems then if it's all a voice interface anyway? I mean, I don't pay any attention to that remote control and how it's construction. I just talk into it. And if I'm just going to talk.
Well, let me ask you, do you think there's a huge difference between the Mac and Windows interface today?
I'm psychologically conditioned by one. So yeah, I probably prefer Windows. I don't know how long it took you to make the switch over to Mac, but
5 seconds.
All right.
I mean, to me, the only difference why I go Mac over Windows is, and I don't know if it's still true, so Microsoft, please don't be mad at me, but Mac was much more stable. I never had to reboot my Mac, and I used to have to reboot Windows every 2 days or whatever.
I don't know. I always felt that Mac was for left-handed people and Windows was for right-handed people, but that's how I
Yes.
That's how I
went from Mac to Windows, and I'll never go back to the Mac. I just can't. It's just counterintuitive.
Never go back.
Never go back.
Okay.
Well, sorry, I'm still an OS2 bigot, so.
What are you?
I'm still an OS2 bigot. I think that was the saddest.
You want to talk sad? I had, well, even before Warp, I was running OS2 and then Warp came out and I just, again, one of my bigger financial successes in life was I thought Microsoft was done. I thought OS2 Warp was just going to kill it. Apple was already on the way out. And yeah, well, that's why we're still here. But I don't think OS2 is coming back, Tracy. I don't want to bum you out.
I know it's not, but it was an awesome operating system. It really was. It was stable. It was the best of both. It was the best of both.
Better than Windows, right? You used to go into your DOS box and you'd set up like an extra 20 or so megs of memory and it like running games and stuff. It was, I don't know, did you ever play with Warp?
Yeah, a long time ago. I can't even remember the experience.
Yeah, no, I remember I had a tower. It was about this high off the floor. And it had a 4 meg cache IDE controller, which at the time was, and wow, yeah, it launched my internet career. Quite frankly, it was. So I started doing, well, anyway.
Well, the point is here, the best technology isn't the one that always wins.
Absolutely.
No.
But no, I mean, look, the human-machine interface that we've all grown up with and used our whole career, I mean, most of it comes out of the Xerox PARC, right?
Lab. Yes.
The whole Windows icon mouse thing. And I think it's on the way out. We'll be burying that in the next 2-3 years.
In the meantime, we've had a lovely trip down nostalgia lane.
It has been. This is, you know what? And like I said, rest in peace to the control panel. It was a good run. It was a good run. Anyway, hey, let's take a break here on our Monday Techstrong Gang. We're going to come back. Is your mayor an AI? I don't know. We'll talk about it. Stay tuned.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
All right, we're back and we're talking about this mayoral race that occurred out in Wyoming where the candidate initially was trying to say, well, let's just elect AI, but they wouldn't let that on the ballot. So he got on the ballot, but said he was going to run the town using AI. And he didn't win his Republican primary, so I guess the locals didn't take that idea too kindly. But he did bring up some interesting points, which is to say that a lot of the decisions that are made by not just business officials and government officials might be better enhanced and better through AI. And maybe this should become standard issue equipment for governments and agencies because, not everybody can be an expert on everything. And maybe we won't have construction crews working on the main road at 9 o'clock in the morning when everybody's trying to go to work and silly things like that. So my question to you is, can we start leaning more on AI and have better government operations, and what's standing in the way, in your opinion?
Well, he probably, I'm not going to say anything about that, but nothing. I mean, and this was Cheyenne, Wyoming, by the way, which is not, it's not a huge metropolis, but I think it was about 60,000 people or something like that. It said in the article.
Enough people to fit in the Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, and then some maybe. Mm-hmm. But, my take on it is I think, this is a thing whose time is coming. Maybe not today, but in the near future. And if Mike and I were just sitting with a friend of ours who showed us an AI done on Gemini, where he took the bylaws of his HOA, dumped it into Gemini as a PDF, and then created a chatbot that people, residents of the development could say, what do I need to put, what do I need to do if I'm going to put up a new fence? And boom, it would go through the bylaws and give you a step-by-step guide of what you need to do, what form needs to get filled out, help you fill out the form to put up a new fence. My son spent this summer on working up in Boston on a federal work grant. Part of it was creating these kind of chatbot interfaces for, people who can't afford attorneys who are in family court or housing court with evictions or what have you. Not really criminal as much, but, these civil courthouses, because most of a lot of people there can't afford attorneys. And this is another great use of AI to help them navigate the system. So I think there's two uses of this. Number one, that AI becomes the interface for citizen to government interaction. Do I have garbage collection today? What's the code for putting in a car charger in my garage or what have you? But then there's also, you could train it if you have the right LLM, the right data set to, how best to schedule our road work on Route 25. And it'll do it a hell of a lot better with a lot faster, with a lot less greasing of palms than I think people will.
I'm encountering the same issues with the HOA. There are things in the bylaws, and then there's things in the Florida state rules for
so put them both in the same.
Right. You're going to have to put them both in and then just compare them, and just maybe.
You won't have to compare them. The AI will compare.
I know. That's what I'm getting at. And it would be nice if it would just proactively send an email to the HOA saying, hey, the rules are out of date again, and somebody needs to go in and update these things.
I was going to say, on the surface, this whole thing initially kind of sounded silly, like this Frank Capra meets AI screenplay, which is written by a chatbot. But then the more you look into it, I think, as you said, Al, I think it's inevitably it's going to happen in a small rural town within the next decade. Towns, as you said, are going to become increasingly more dependent on AI to govern. And it's already happening, in a sense, on a statewide level, or it's beginning to happen in California, right? Remember, Gavin Newsom, who is our governor, just signed a partnership with NVIDIA, and they're going to start using AI to help train workers in agriculture, healthcare, teachers, students. And it's going to go down to the community college level. It's going to be at the state and university level. I mean, it's inevitable. So what this guy, Victor Miller, tried to do, maybe he's a pioneer. Maybe we'll look back on him and people look deeper into what he tried to do. But I think it's going to happen.
I think he sees the future, right? He understands where this kind of technology is going to go. But I think to Alan's point, right now, AI is going to be used to better serve information to us and have it better accessible. Because I just spent the last week doing a bunch of stuff with SAMS.gov and getting things set up for a contract that we're working on. And I sure would have loved to have some AI that I could just ask, what platform do I enter this information on? And it's all the data's out there, but it took me a lot of PDFs to download and read through and to do all that work on my own. But we do have a trust problem with AI. And it's a valid trust problem. And we're beginning to have a trust problem with big tech as well. So I think before we really move into where government's really going to be using AI, we have to get beyond the trust problem, because we're going to have people who are never going to trust AI to do bigger things like managing dispatch or military operations. Those are really big, important things that humans need to have an input into. And the trust issue is going to stop. It's a barrier to people accepting AI in these types of environments.
I don't know.
The trust level starts. Sorry, Mike. The trust level starts probably with some of the tasks Alan points out, but and eventually it builds. There are building blocks where we get to things that are much more serious. But I think it's going to be a long, slow process. And again, it's going to be legislation on state level, perhaps, and even one day on a national level. So sorry, Mike.
No worries, but I have trust issues with humans, so I don't know about AI. But if I go to the DMV and I go online there and I listen to the person politely telling me something that they are convinced is absolutely certain, and if it doesn't quite line up with my general expectations, I say thank you and I get out of line and I go into the next line and wait for the next response that I know is probably going to line up with what I wanted.
This is why you're waiting online so long at DMV. But no, think about going online to a DMV chatbot and saying, I want to renew my license. Okay, what's your name? Mike. Okay, Mike, here. Tell me your name, your date of birth, blah, blah, blah. And boom, it does it for you on the back end and says, Mike, your application's been put through. You'll have it in the mail in 7 days.
Yeah, and I didn't have to leave my house to do it.
And you didn't have to leave your house.
And taxes. Please tell me right now why the government just doesn't send me my taxes. They already have all the information, because if I send it wrong, they tell me. So just do it for me, and I will contest it if I have something that they have missed. Mm-hmm. Right. So, there are some areas of AI, and I don't even think we need AI for them to do my taxes. They could fill that form out now because they have the data.
The AI may ask you a few questions, and based upon that, give you some general sort of deductions.
Yeah.
And then exactly.
So send it to me. Let me contest it with AI. I'm good. I'm all good about that.
Right. I'll create my own little AI agent to go up against their AI agent, and the two of them can battle it out, and we'll come to some resolution here, right? That would work.
You have a third-party AI agent to resolve the conflict too. And
I'll give you something else though. Why aren't we using AI to draft legislation?
Yeah, well,
so that actually was a suggestion by somebody I talked to about this California bill 1047. That's getting all sorts of pushback. Somebody actually mentioned that. They said, yeah, have AI write the legislation about AI because it'll be up to date and current and know where it's going, rather being reactive and thinking about, well, we learned this 6 months ago.
So therefore, can we not get to the point where the pace of society is faster? There are more things being voted on. There is more progress being made through government because we're getting rid of I won't use the term swamp, but the whole notion of, the inertia that results in all this stuff taking so long that we could actually, make a lot more progress faster. Is there hope for us?
Yeah. Someone soon may be knocking at your door, and it might be a mechanical device that says, hi, my name is Artie Intelligence, and I'm here to help. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
And we won't be using a mouse to point and click on icons.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right. Well, some of us will still be clicking icons. You're right. All right.
We will need to retrain millions of government employees.
Yeah.
What was the movie where humans became they just sat on those server chairs on a rocket ship and got really heavy? It was a Disney movie.
The only Disney sci-fi movie I remember is The Black Hole, and that's dating.
No, it wasn't The Black Hole.
Sounds like 4 or 5 different episodes of Star Trek.
No, there was a Disney movie, and then Back on Earth, which had been rendered unlivable. Wall-E.
Oh, of course, yes.
Is that where we're headed?
We're going to have to do jumping jacks at 8 o'clock every morning.
Absolutely. I'm out there doing it. Anyway, are you really here or are you at VMworld?
I don't know.
Or in both?
I have to check with my AI bot.
Okay. Hey, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We'll continue our AI. What can AI do for sports? Stay tuned. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
All right, folks, we're back and we're talking about how technology is changing the way we're going to view sports on television or whatever other device we happen to be using these days. And there seems to be a lot of changes afoot, and now we've also seen commentators or AI bots themselves, and that's kind of changing the whole experience itself. But I guess the concern is not enough people are watching sports these days. I know that you're addicted, but...
Well, you're not.
But it seems like a lot of folks are maybe checking out on sports viewership. And what do we do to make it more entertaining and engaging?
Yeah. Going to me first?
I
guess. Okay. Well, there's two issues here. The first one is what went on at the Olympics. I don't know how many of you caught this experiment, but they basically created a bot using Al Michaels' voice and then using AI to kind of see what's going on and animating Al Michaels' voice to give you the play-by-play. And some may find that comforting. I frankly found it a little creepy and weird. I remember being in law school 100 years ago, and one of the big cases was the case of the estate of Bela Lugosi versus, I think it was MGM. And that's a huge case in law school back then. I think it still probably is, that about whether you could use the likeness of someone without their permission, or after their death, or after your contractual relationship with them had ended. And the court, I think we went up to the Supreme Court, said, no, right? People have a right to their likeness. And so the estate of Bela Lugosi was entitled to damages for MGM using his pictures. Not in the films, because once you're in a film, you sign the rights away for them to use that film, and play it as often as you want. Though you're supposed to get residuals, I guess. Anyway, the point is, I think it's the same logic that applies here. Now, I'm assuming Al Michaels signed off on this, and he probably got
sign
money.
off on it. Yeah, he did sign off on it.
He probably got compensated as well.
Got compensated for not doing anything, basically, except sign. Actually, Alan, what's even creepier is I listened to probably some of the same things you did with him. They actually used Bob Costas as well later. So they had the two of them talking about a segment. Like it was a highlight. It was very strange. But, I actually, just kind of going back to what Mike said, something dramatic has to happen, with the exception of the NFL. Something dramatic has to happen, especially with MLB, and to a far lesser extent, the NBA. These leagues, especially MLB, they're trying to make the game shorter. They're changing the rules and trying to make it more digestible. There with the NFL, there's always that gambling element which plays in. If you watch a pregame, especially on NBC, it's BetMGM. I mean, they have a guy on there who spends as much time on there as anybody else. So that kind of plays into it. Plus the fact the NFL plays so well on television. But something dramatic has to happen. I just don't know what would reverse this viewership and attendance decline for most sports.
So if you
bring more women in, women love sports too. Bring more women in. Women's sports is so much fun to watch. The NFL has done
a better job of that than though the NBA's tried, but. So I got to call bullshit a little bit though, because first of all, John, if you think gambling is only on NFL games, hello.
I know. No, I just think that
Martin Logan is the CPO for Caesars Entertainment. They make nothing makes as much money as the NFL, but they make a lot. There's a lot of action on basketball games. There's a ton of action on baseball games.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. But going back to Tracy said, at WNBA, it's much more interesting to watch women's college basketball or the women
in general.
Women were the Olympics team.
Listen, as a woman who loves sports, I get annoyed by how male-dominated even discussions and who they have as announcers. It is. It just says you're excluded. You're excluded, even though I love it. Now, the other thing I want to say about AI, and this is like, don't touch this. And I start seeing it with hockey because I watch a lot of hockey. Don't try to predict a play and show these little lines shooting off of where the puck can go. I hate that, and please stop doing that. It's not fun.
The AWS cloud says there's a 67% chance that this could be.
That did last long though. Yeah, that was
not
a
great.
Oh wait, but it's Tuesday and he's hitting 497 on Tuesdays between 3 and 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right.
These are, and this all this stuff.
Baseball.
Yeah, it's like during the game, right? If you go on ESPN, especially on the app, there's a 97% chance they're going to win now, and then the other team scores 2 runs. Now it's only a 58%.
42%. Like,
stop it.
Stop it.
But
exactly.
let's take baseball for a second, right? I think baseball does have a problem. You know, my son's, well, my one son played baseball all the way through high school, and down here in Florida, travel baseball. He played 100 baseball games a year, every year. So like 2 games a week, and all up and down the state.
Yep.
And of course, we went with him. And a funny thing happened. Baseball at the youth level became less and less popular. It was, well, down here in Florida, football was bigger, basketball was bigger, lacrosse was bigger, and soccer was perhaps the biggest, right? So baseball, at least in the U.S., was a bit of a dying sport. And I think it's reflected in who we see on Major League Baseball rosters. You have a lot of folks from South America, Central America. You have a lot of folks from other parts of the world. And that's not a bad thing, making baseball more global, by the way. But I do think we get less and less baseball players who are born and raised here in the U.S. But I do think that shortening, as a fan watching, I think baseball is the most cerebral game of all of them, because every pitch, is he throwing a fastball or a curveball? Is he coming inside or outside? How come the second baseman shading to the right? He must be, he's a lefty, he's coming inside. There's so much strategy and thought that goes into baseball. I think it's the best game to watch. I could watch baseball all day. But I get that some people think it's paint drying. And so doing what they did to speed up the games, where most games now are like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something, I think has been a huge benefit. However, it's not reflected in the viewership. Most of
I think about it,
sports,
it's a generational thing too, though, because when we grew up, right, all of us, the games were fairly short. They're fairly quick pace, and then we reached this era where it was pitchers being replaced every other batter, like slowed down, especially during the playoffs. And now they're kind of going back to what we remember. But I think, unfortunately, for the younger generation, and my youngest son was on a travel ball team, so he would play 100 games a year, like your son probably, Alan. And I loved watching it. That was my favorite sport to watch. It still is. But I acknowledge that my son no longer really even watches baseball. He's more interested in things like international soccer, the Olympics, basketball especially, NFL to a lesser extent. It's just kind of a generational thing. It's kind of like the pace of the sport. And I hate to say this, but the more cerebral baseball is, maybe that turns some people off. I don't know.
Yeah.
And yet women all over the United States and probably the world love to watch on Saturdays in a university level women's softball. It's a blast to watch.
Huge sport.
Softball is huge, and women love softball. But we don't, this is something we don't talk about, and I don't see it on the evening on an evening sports show. So we have to get more women into the park. We have to get more women if they want to increase viewership. We are ready.
So ESPN, they're listening to you though, Tracy, because ESPN has the Little League World Series. They started doing, they're doing more softball.
They do a ton of softball on ESPN.
They have to do more women's sports.
No, that's what they're doing. They are doing
more women's sports. There's a new sports bar that a woman started, I think, out of the East, and she is franchising it, and it's called Sports Bra.
Really?
And it's all designed for women. It's pretty.
No bros,
it's,
just bras.
It's sports bras.
Yeah, sports. Okay. I guess.
And I wish there was one here, because I would be at it every Friday and Saturday watching women's sports. So bring us in the room, right? Bring us in the room.
It's half the population you're leaving out like
exactly.
that.
Well, back when I was single, if you told me that there was 50 women hanging out in the bar,
that would be the creepy weird guy there. You have to say, time to go back. Okay, there we go. But let me tie a little bow on this a little bit. Couple things. First of all, the fact of the matter is, baseball's national contract is with, I think, Fox on Saturday and ESPN maybe Sunday night.
Sunday, yes.
But the real wealth of baseball, the real revenue generator of baseball were the regional sports, the Yankees Yes Network. The Dodgers own their network in LA. Now, what happened was Fox Sports, and then it was sold, and it's been owned by a lot of these regional sports networks have gone through a lot of ownership changes because they paid an exorbitant sum to get the rights to carry every game, and they haven't been able to make the money, and they wound up in bankruptcy. Tracy, I don't know if you're a Diamondback follower out in your neck of the woods, but I know the network that carries the Diamondbacks, I believe, went into bankruptcy and walked away from their Diamondback deal. And
is it also the Rockies?
The Rockies another one as well. Yeah, a lot.
Bally's here was
Bally's is the one who bought it from Fox.
Yeah, Diamondbacks. The Marlins have the same issue in the region.
Right, but they did.
They brought it back.
Yes, they didn't walk away from the contract. They went into bankruptcy and take it back. My younger son was an intern there. But so baseball does have a problem on the day-to-day, but it's also, I think, it's a 162-game season.
Well,
it's a lot.
I was at the Cubs-Marlins game Friday night.
You and who else?
Me and Rory, my youngest.
No, was there anyone else there?
It was about 3,000 to 4,000 of my closest friends.
Yeah, and that's a big crowd for the Marlins.
But as much as I like watching a game, there's no substitute for going to the game.
No, it's a lot. Yes. Look, I still remember being a young boy, and Shea Stadium was closer than Yankee Stadium. I know you were a Yankee Stadium guy. I was a Yankee fan, but Shea Stadium was closer. But walking with my dad or uncles or friends,
to come to the Bronx.
Well, my mom wouldn't let me go to the Bronx. It was a bad place. But anyway, when you get off at Shea Stadium and you walk into that stadium and you walk kind of on the periphery where the hot dog stands and everything are, and then you walk. Okay, I'm in section 231, and you walk into section 231, and you see that green outfield and the dirt infield. There was nothing as a kid, as a young boy. That was so special to me. I loved it. But, and that is another thing. Live gated baseball is probably down, depending on I think part of the problem with baseball, though, is it's such a have and have not league now.
All these sports are just far too expensive for people to go to now.
It's crazy expensive. Don't even get me started on that, because the NFL is out of their minds. But so growing up in New York, we always had decent crowds at Yankee and Met games. You go to a lot of these other cities, when the Yankees come to town, they're a huge draw. That's why they love the Yankees to come. But it's not. But let's get off baseball for a second and go to basketball. Viewership down? Are you crazy? They just signed like an $11 billion TV contract.
There's this kind of like, it's erratic at times. But you know what? It's interesting. I think the single most compelling figure in basketball is Caitlin Clark. I mean, if they had put her on the Olympic team, this is another story.
That's a whole nother story why she wasn't. I think the AI didn't pick her. I'm only kidding. Yeah. I don't know that.
Yeah, I know. I blame them too.
Basketball is truly a global game. We see this at the Olympics, right? It used to be the U.S. was here and everybody plays basketball now, whether you're Nigeria or Laos or Seoul,
yes,
you play in basketball.
Women can dunk. Women can dunk.
And women's basketball.
That used to be the thing. Women can dunk.
To Tracy's point, women's basketball sold out the Boston, it's not
TD Garden,
TD whatever it is. They sold out an entire game, which I think was the first time they've done that.
The ratings, talking about ratings.
No, the WNBA. And look, credit to the NBA because they carried this thing for 10, 12 years. but it's finding its footing now. Caitlin Clark and some of the stars, that you're starting to see there. There's no reason women's basketball shouldn't be a major league sport in the U.S. But, so I don't think basketball, and quite frankly, hockey does a great job of drawing. And we live here in South Florida. I don't like going to a Marlins game because I feel like I'm in a mausoleum, even though it's a beautiful stadium and it's far away. But dollar for dollar, the Florida Panthers are the best game in town.
I do
Hey,
like one thing. I like
Agreed.
You got to say, point. If you ever have a chance, go to a Las Vegas Golden Knights game.
You can't get
Yes!
You cannot
You
get tickets for them.
Oh
Don't
my
worry
God!
about how much they are. Just go. I've gone several times. It is a blast.
Oh,
It is.
Once
I
a year,
know.
go in October.
Greatest-
Go in October.
greatest-
The tickets are cheaper.
Yes, one of the greatest introductions, right, Tracy? The marketing, the presentation of that.
it's so
is-
much fun.
Hockey does
Oh
a
my
great
God.
job.
It is so
And
much fun.
hockey just signed a national TV contract last season, I believe. So
And I
they
just want to
have-
say one more thing about women in sports.
go.
Women can check. Women can check. Women can play football and tackle.
No, so women's flag football is a thing I've seen on TV now.
I don't
too.
want
Not
to see flag
professional.
football. I want to see rough and tumble football.
Yeah.
Listen,
Wow.
here's somebody who I have a black belt. I have sparred. I have fallen off of horses. And when I see that a sport say, well, women can't check and they can't tackle, I think, screw you. Women can do a lot. We can birth
That's why we
children,
love
for
you,
God's
Tracy
sake.
Ragan. All right, let's get a women's football league going. I could
Heck
be the
yes.
coach. Hey, there's no crying in football.
Did you see the women's rugby
Yes, I did.
in
As
the
a matter of
Olympics?
fact, women's rugby looked fun.
It was
can I
looked like a
But
blast.
let me, and
Let me, can I mention one thing though? So my oldest son works for ESPN, but he also broadcasts Stanford women's sports. So he does the basketball, and he's done lacrosse, and he loves those games more than
women's
any other
lacrosse
type.
is big too. Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible.
Good stuff.
I just want to throw it out.
I'll give you the last word because I know whether.
I would just give a shout out to women's basketball because the players set up a play and nobody travels and tries to dunk and then doesn't get called for it. Unlike men's basketball, where back in the day, it's like
that European extra step.
yeah, it's like
Yes,
three and a
yeah.
half to 4 steps now, and it's like, oh yeah, that was a great shot.
You know what was very funny? I saw a clip the other day from I think it was the 2003 NBA draft. David Stern trying on LeBron James' sports jacket. It was like down to his ankles. It was, I got a kick out of it. Anyway, I don't know where we got off track here on this, but it was good fun. Women's sports deserves more limelight. And if you want to increase viewership, you're missing out on half of the population. I agree with you, Tracy. Let's wrap up today's Techstrong Gang, though. John, Tracy, thanks so much for joining us. This was a rip-roaring, meandering broadcast, but we hope you liked it out there.
Was it the best? Yeah.
Mike, is your avatar going to be here tomorrow, or?
It will be here from Las Vegas. So
Oh, you'll be in. Oh, so
I'm
we're coalescing into one place, one location.
Bringing my
Cool.
thoughts back.
The stars are aligned. John, Tracy, we'll see you soon. Hope everyone enjoyed this. Hey, we've got a full Techstrong TV schedule today for you as well. So stay tuned for that. But until tomorrow, this is Alan Schimmel for Techstrong Gang. Have a great day, everyone.